I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to the 30th episode of Playing from the Tips, the preview and tipping podcast covering professional golf around the world, presented by Golf Australia magazine. I'm your host, Jimmy Emanuel, guiding you through the global journey of professional golf with the help of some of Golf Australia magazine's so-called experts. This week's journey seeing us visit Ireland, Cincinnati, Ohio and Korea across the DP World, LPGA and Asian tours. The first of the so-called experts is a man who spent the early part of this week promoting lawlessness via the lack of gallery ropes at tournaments. I speak, of course, of Sydney Podcast Studios proprietor and Golf Australia columnist Rod Morri. Rod, welcome. Do you hate rules and law?
This is the society we live in.
Yeah, that's right.
We're not animals. Did anybody else not enjoy the whole Walker Cup atmosphere? I accept that you got to have gallery ropes.
They did have
big
gallery
events.
ropes there, to be fair.
Well, they were movable though.
Yeah.
So they're not like you get where you. And they were off at the 18th. So one of the reasons the Vic Open is such a great tournament to go to every year, the best spectating experience in golf in Australia, is because there's no ropes. Yeah. Now, were they to start attracting the fields that they were hoping for, I don't see how that could have not changed.
There's a certain level of player. Once you get them, you have to.
You don't put Adam Scott on the beach course at 13th Creek and expect to be able to get away without having ropes.
At 13th Beach.
13th Beach, yeah, the Creek course, perhaps.
13th, yeah. But, so I get that.
Are you now slandering Jeff Ogilvy? Is he not as good as Adam Scott?
No, I'm not.
The fairways take a little too long to clear. I think that's really
it's got issues,
the only
but it's
practical
I think
issue.
because of the
size of the event dictates
distracted, but the where it is as a locale, you're probably never going to see a crowd to make clearing fairways and stuff.
Anyway, this is way too much.
Way too deep introduction. Too early. One would expect our next guest to be a little bit sheepish, given his remarkable tipping run hit a wall like the one behind the road hole at the Old Course last week. Adrian Logue, what happened? Tell your fans.
It's all built into my statistical models that you just sometimes have a regression to the mean, and
regression to the mean. I've never heard anybody in gambling describe a regression to the mean to cover a losing streak.
One of my great friends used to call himself the mean because he was very average. Speaking of results last week, Rod and myself backing the Fitzpatricks yielded 2 top 10s to take our tally to 152 for the year alongside 20 wins, which, while we may mock Logue, is actually quite an impressive number.
It's an extremely impressive number.
10 of those wins were from me.
No, I don't know that that's necessarily
If you gave a million monkeys a million typewriters, would they eventually produce the works of Shakespeare, though? It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
Maybe they produce a golf movie review.
Oh, nice.
Before we do move forward, any highlights or lowlights from last week? Thoughts on Ryder Cup picks?
Ryder Cup's obviously getting the headlines, but I've got to say, a Monday qualifier who's missed 8 straight cuts,
9,
streaking the field and winning the event is off the charts good stuff.
You're hot.
Well, that final round was crazy good. They're very, very impressive. Ludwig Aberg in Switzerland as well was
absolutely
very
but
impressive.
We kind of expected that from him at some point.
I think that makes it quite hard.
In some ways,
we expect it. And Walker,
that course wasn't a great fit for him either.
Not at all.
As a leading player off the tee. But interestingly, as we said last week, Scott Hend performs well there, which
LPGA Tour the last couple of weeks, despite big names not winning, has been really, really, really good golf. So
the thing about Aberg was he had something to play for and got the job done. That's impressive. So it may be that the course doesn't suit him. He may never play well there again, but he had something to play for, that Ryder Cup spot, and got the job done.
Got it done.
That you've got to like.
Given
that
his US focus and his way on the up, I don't think he ever will play there again.
Possibly not.
As probably pretty likely. To get us underway this week, we're going to first head to Ireland. And Rod, you're going to take us through the Horizon Irish Open at the K Club in County Kildare.
Indeed.
I mention all that because I like saying the counties in Ireland.
County Kildare. The K Club will be a familiar name to many. Of course, hosted the 2006 Ryder Cup, where Steve Williams famously dropped Tiger's 9-iron in a water hazard, if anybody remembers that. That was the one where Darren Clark came back after his wife had died not long before, and extremely emotional. The Europeans won that, and it was quite
Ian as captain, one of the better ones.
Woozy as captain. There was more champagne sprayed that week than I think any other Ryder Cup in history. So the K Club is not a links course in Ireland. You'd always like to think that they'd play links, or there's a certain portion of us would be in that camp. I'm in that camp. This is not a links course. It's a 36-hole resort complex, and it just frankly reeks of money. Everything about the place reeks of money, from the aerial shots with the gardens out the front of the castle to the strip cut fairways. Every review you read of the place says condition, condition, condition. Look, it's a Arnold Palmer design. It's a good golf course, not a great golf course. It's been designed with a purpose in mind, which is professional golf. It tests that pretty well, so it'll be an interesting tournament this week. But there's nothing really architecturally outstanding about it that would make you like, this hole's amazing or that hole's amazing. Anyway, it did host the European Open for several years between 1995 and 07. Some of those events were played on the second course there, not the Ryder Cup course, the Palmer. They've changed names 1,000 times. Who knows which course is which there anymore. It did host the Irish Open in 2016, which was won by McIlroy with one of the shots of the decade, a 3-wood into the 72nd hole, which finished at tap-in range for a win there. It's long. It's got lots of hazards. Scoring tends to be high. McIlroy was 12 under when he won in 2016, and that was good enough for a 3-shot win. So double digits under par is a standard for most professional golf tournaments. This doesn't often get there, so it certainly tests them. The field this week, good field assembled. McIlroy's back. Outside that win, his record in this event isn't great, but this golf course plays exactly to all of his strengths. Yeah. It's basically Florida in Ireland. So it's right up his alley. Shane Lowry, Danny Willett, Billy Horschel, probably the other name players. Adrian Meronk, Yannick Paul, both in the field. Both missed out on Ryder Cup spots, obviously. Meronk in particular, I think a lot of people feeling.
A winner of this event before as well.
He's a defending champion.
Yeah.
Does this course set up well for him? He's a bit hit and miss, Meronk, isn't he? When he's good, he's really, really good. But he's bad can be pretty poor.
He's an elite kind of ball striker.
Oh, definitely. We saw him here in Australia up close, and it was like, right, okay, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Putting is questionable at times from short range. When he won that Irish Open, he missed some absolute tiddlers earlier in the week. It's a game that relies on everything firing that week. Yeah. So he has his moments, and then he dips in and out a little bit. So
a very likeable character.
Yeah,
he really impressed me at the Australian Open. I thought he really did. He did the off-course stuff really well down there as well. So look, I might actually tip him this week, which we'll come to in a moment. So Australians in the field: Minwoo, Adam Scott, Jason Scrivener. Adam Scott actually gets in his he's got an exemption category.
Yeah, he's got a European Tour category, or DP World Tour category.
You wouldn't have expected, but there you go.
Yep.
So interesting decision for him. I'm not sure what that might be about, Adam.
As to why he's playing. Yeah. He's going to play here, he's going to play Wentworth, and he's going to play, I think, in France.
Wentworth obviously is Horschel will be there because he's playing Wentworth next week as well. So Wentworth, the tournaments around Wentworth will get a bit of a lift.
Not far from home, I guess.
Not far from home either for Adam. Yeah, he lives over that way. And I'd say also a bit of world ranking points at this point. Because for next year, and because there's exemptions with the PGA Tours events and majors as well. Adam's still got to get into majors. I think he probably sits.
That's true. You're right.
30 to 40 in the world rankings right now.
We just assumed.
Did he just miss out on the Tour Championship?
Yeah. He did, which is a key entry point.
I think that's your answer.
First time since the FedEx Cup era, and then he's got end of the year. Of course, if you're top 50, it helps you for the next year. Not that he needs to get into the Masters, but other ones. So I'd say that's probably the concern. And also, he seemed, last I heard, he was talking about wanting to play a bit more because he was playing okay and he was ready to go. So
yeah, there you go. So look, and this course will suit him too.
Absolutely, down at the ground.
Exactly. As I said, my tip, I'm going to go with Adrian Meronk, the defending champion, because I think he's got something to play for this week. But who knows? Take a dart, chuck it at the ball.
It's a really deep field, so it's a hard picking week.
It is. It is.
Logue?
A similar way of thinking. It's an atypical Irish Open, but then I think we've got to acknowledge that there are these great inland courses.
They played at Mount Juliet last year, which is a resort nowhere near the sea.
You've got all these castle places, Adair Manor and Glen Castle and Druids Glen and all those sort of ones.
Irish golf is not just links golf.
It's right. It has to be acknowledged, I think, that this is a dimension to Irish golf which is world famous, that these big inland castle estates. But they do produce a completely different type of golf, and really it's a type of golf that really suits Rory McIlroy.
PGA Tour players in general. Tyrrell Hatton's playing this week as well.
Yeah.
He'd be another one that you might keep an eye on.
I suspect Tyrrell Hatton, all secured with his Ryder Cup selection, and all he was on points, I think, wasn't he? But I just don't think he's in good form, and I think he's going to be a disappointment in the Ryder Cup. Just trajectory-wise with his year, the way his year's going, I just don't.
We could see some.
I think he's done.
Temper tantrums if that's the case.
He's done.
Send any feedback, Tyrrell, to Logue
at notworkingmedia.com.
Obviously, Rory, but who knows with his back. I was very disappointed that his back issue wasn't announced before I picked him for the Tour Championship, which
makes it very interesting for all the betting out there.
That is a genuine concern. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how I could have worked that into my model, like just predicting that. But anyway, I didn't have my people on the ground.
I would have thought you would have had the good oil.
Yeah, people mailing that in, but no, it didn't. That didn't happen. But I'm going for a player who I wouldn't go for if this was. I wouldn't choose him if this was a Links Irish Open, and that is Danny Willett.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Still bobs up occasionally.
I like that.
Better than bobs up. I think he's resurgent.
Oh,
yeah, he's been on the way towards resurgence. I don't know if he's fully into resurgence yet. But
he did this a couple of years ago too, didn't he? Bobbed up and won in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, I think it was, and looked like he was on the way back.
Danny Willett, it's like degrading.
Anyway,
one of the few players when I once did a big story about the greatest shot you ever saw that selected one of his own shots.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, he said, "Can I pick my own shot?" And it was when he won the Masters, and I was like,
"The chip on 17."
Yeah, I was like, "Of course you can." He was like, "No, it wasn't the chip; it was a 9-iron he hit on the last day, I think." Actually,
okay,
a nice guy actually. I think Moronk will have a huge week because I think he would have probably maybe had an average week had he got a pick. I think he has a big week,
chip on his shoulder now.
Yeah. But I don't know that that's enough. I'm actually going to go with Adam Scott. Gets the whole National Open thing. And I think the Irish Open is doing some work in the background to get itself back to that kind of thing. Right. He plays well late in the year. He's going to be rested, having not played the Tour Championship. And when Adam goes and plays something like this, he plays well.
Yeah, that's a good
He's
point.
made the effort, so he's going to be up and about for it. He loves Wentworth, so he's going to be gearing up towards that. And the golf course suits him down to the ground. I think Rory typically would be the pick, but the back is a major, major question. And look, in the league, obviously he has to play a bit and has to play Wentworth effectively as one of the main guys for the tour. But in the lead up to a Ryder Cup with a bad back, you wouldn't want to be playing too many tournaments in a row. But anyway, we move along and we go to the LPGA Tour and the Kroger Queen City Championship presented by P&G, which is just in its second year after it marked the first visit by the LPGA to Southwest Ohio in more than 30 years in 2022. That's just a little fact for you. American Ali Ewing won that week when she made 5 straight birdies on the back 9 on her way to a 66 on Sunday. And it's probably, in the pro game at least, the pick of the courses this week. Kendale course of Kenwood Country Club. There's also Kenview. Don't know who Ken is, but he's obviously a popular bloke in this part of the world. It returns as host after a strong debut last year. So the site for the 36 holes that were once known as number 1 and number 2 was actually chosen by Donald Ross. So members of the Cincinnati Golf Club bring Donald Ross in 1930, I think it was, to go pick out a perfect bit of land and then don't let him design the golf courses. Interesting choice. They instead go with Bill Diddle, who designed both golf courses. Apparently did a fair bit of work in the Midwest. Sort of finished early 1930s. Dana Fry and Jason Straka came in 2019 to renovate the courses that had been moved around with a bit of road expansion of a major freeway. But they did a kind of return to the original with more than 1,000 trees removed, bunkers remodeled, and fairways widened. All things we like to hear. And it actually looks really good. Plenty of tournament hosting history here with US Amateur in 1933. US Women's Open in 1963 and the Western Open we're held here. And in terms of Aussies, we've got 7 in the field this week, being Minjee Lee, Gabby Ruffles, Sue O, Steph Kiriakou, Karis Davidson, Sarah Kemp, and Grace Kim. You can kind of consider all of those among the players to watch, but to make a selection, Sarah Kemp was the best of the Aussies last week and was 8th here last year.
Don't hate her chances this week.
Don't hate her chances at all. Really playing good golf and obviously likes the golf course. Grace Kim actually found some form last week, while Gabby Ruffles gets another invite to try and keep that hot hand going. Minjee Lee, meanwhile, has dropped out of the top 10 in the world rankings and returns to a site where she missed the cut last year. So it's interesting to see if she can turn it around, because she's kind of in a real, not funk. It's a low point, I suppose, in the year.
She's not playing.
We're alert, but not alert.
Correct.
Well
and she's
put.
too good a player to not figure it out. But it's kind of an interesting sort of period for Minjee. I don't remember her ever having a struggle period
Complete
in
opposite,
her career.
actually. She's a top 10 machine.
Yeah, that's right.
Her floor was always very high.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So interesting to watch her this week. Not the sort of golf course that necessarily Minjee finds herself thriving in. She's funny like that, though. I think she's more of a just form rather than like the fit for the week.
She seems like the sort of player who doesn't necessarily see the golf course. She just sees the
the golf shots. Yeah, she's an execution player.
Yeah,
for sure. So, and look, good execution around a good golf course will get the job done, and particularly an American-styled sort of golden age classic sort of thing. Outside of the Aussies, there's plenty of top players in Ohio, among them Lexi Thompson, who is chasing some semblance of form ahead of the Solheim Cup this month. She did qualify on points, but her run of late has been pretty tough, so she's going to want to play some good golf before she heads there. You also have 9 of the top 10 from last week's Portland Classic teeing it up this week, and probably chief among the players to watch would be Shiyu Lin, who was joint runner-up in Portland and solo second here in 2022. So just knocking on the door constantly. Very good player, kind of place that should suit her as well. Having a really good little period at the moment. So
hasn't won yet. 9 years on the tour. Been there and thereabouts constantly.
Crazy.
And hasn't won yet, which
Crazy.
is just lost to
It's
Hannah
one of
Green
these
in a
things
playoff
when
earlier
you
this year.
go back and you look at each LPGA event to preview, she's on every leaderboard.
Exactly.
Like just money-making machine that hasn't won. Kind of what Minjee was, but not at that sort of quite at that elite level.
One
rung down, yeah. So let's get some tips. Why don't we go to you first, Logue?
Alison Corpuz
Nice.
is my tip for this week.
That's it. No need for you to justify that. Your Logue, that's your tip, and that's what we're going with.
Yeah, I don't need to explain myself.
Absolutely. You've earned that, right?
Yep.
Among those players playing really good golf, who's just consistently on leaderboards as
Great
well.
iron player. That performance at the US Women's Open was remarkable.
I think she's rested enough after that now that
I think she's starting
ready
to gain
bob
that,
her head up again.
that level of
Put a nose
being a
in the frame.
contender.
Is that what you're
Yeah,
going with some of those, are we?
Yeah.
Must be a shock for a player like Corpuz to win the US Women's Open. There's a shock factor there that has to be overcome, I suspect. She wouldn't have been expecting to win that tournament, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. And then I think there's an
even if she
adjustment
was, to have
period.
done it would have been a shock regardless. Do you
It's
know
a
what I mean?
different adjustment period than a men's major winner who then gets dragged out with press conferences and stuff every week because there's less media at an LPGA event. But just the idea of you've won, you're secured, more contract conversations about sponsorships and stuff.
Everybody else treats you differently.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether you think about yourself differently or not, the world does change for a player who wins a major.
And the expectations internally become higher.
of course.
Yeah, I've won a major. I should be winning more often. And
Ruined a bunch of players, that.
absolutely
that
it has.
expectation.
Yeah.
Because you get announced on the first tee every single week now as the US Women's Open champ. Jeff Ogilvy is still the 2006 US Open champion. It never ends. So
Correct.
it takes some time to get used to. But I got a good tip, good player.
Rod?
Well, I feel you're going to go with Ji Lin. I was going to as well. So I'll change.
No, I'm not going to.
Oh, you're not? Well, I'm going to tip Ji Lin because I think it's kind of time.
Okay.
She's due to win at some point, and why not this week? Likes the course, obviously. Second there last year. As you said, second last week. Lost a playoff earlier this year to Hannah Green. Got all the shots, got all the game. There's no reason for her not to win. Bit like Megan Kang,
Yeah.
who we saw win last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, sorry. Yeah,
It was close last week as well. And
yeah
then
she
just
was right in the mix again.
couldn't find the pedal to keep up with
May have run out of energy a bit, perhaps.
Oh, yeah. Big couple of weeks to be doing all that sort of stuff, yeah. I'm actually going to stick with my Aussie theme and a somewhat surprise winner again in Gabby Ruffles.
Yeah, she was going to be my go-to pick if you'd picked her.
Yeah, so good on the Epsom Tour. And then every time she gets an LPGA Tour start, she bobs her head up. And then she deserves some good karma after the self-called penalty a couple of weeks ago that cost her effectively a spot last week in the field and all that sort of stuff.
She's a winner, Gabby.
Yeah.
She's one of those players who is a winner.
Yeah.
She wins things.
And I've said it a bunch
An
of times.
unconscious winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. She just sort of like,
Correct.
I played really well. I won. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And I've said it a bunch of times, but she's taken the more old school path of coming through the steps because of a mistake with the filing of the Q Series entry, and that's meant that she's learnt to win at every level, unlike where you just get thrown in at LPGA Tour level like your Corpaz or all these people who are trying to win on the world's biggest stage is really hard. All these people that are trying to do that for the first time. So
learnt to be a professional too. There's a real learning curve to becoming a professional golfer. It's a lifestyle unlike any other, and there's no textbook.
Yeah.
What works for Gabby Ruffles won't work for Min Woo Lee. You've got to find your own comfort zone in all of that, and that just takes time. There's no way you can do it without just doing it.
She only needs to look within her family to see the complete opposite journey to professional golf of turning pro early and going straight and getting PGA Tour cards in Ryan, and it's a completely different journey. Ryan's been injured and had a few dramas with the back, and he's playing a bit in Europe.
A YouTube channel, did I see?
He has started a YouTube channel, just mostly around his travels in Europe and a little bit of stuff like that. It's a bit of fun, actually, so give it a look.
I might check that out.
Finally, the Asian Tour's stop-start schedule kicks back into action this week at the Shinhan Donghae Open in Korea, and we turn to our own world traveller, Logue, to give us the lowdown.
The Shinhan Donghae Open is being played at the Ocean Course at Club 72. There's
Club 72, all one word as well.
A bit of controversy around Club 72. On Asian Tour website is the only place in the world that I can see that refers to this resort as Club 72. The resort itself is called Sky 72 Golf and Resort, and they make no mention of Club 72 anywhere on their website.
I think Scott Henn called it Sky 72 the other day.
It's Sky 72.
Did you say he played it on a simulator and shot
he went to a
23 over or
simulator in
something?
Korea. He's been in Korea for a couple of weeks, and he went into the middle of whatever city he was in and just played on a simulator.
Scott, you're a hooligan, and we love you for it.
And why 72? There's no explanation of it on the website, but I've deduced that it's because there's 4 golf courses there. And
you were a true
72.
You were a true marvel of the academic class.
Sherlock Holmes,
across 2 locations, I think. There's a 54-hole location and an 18-hole location. This tournament's being played at the Ocean Course, which is part of the 54-hole facility. The other 2 courses are the Lake and the Classic. The Ocean is the showcase course of the 3. It's a Nicholas design. It's described on their website as a Korean-style course with a view of the ocean.
Okay.
What is a Korean-style course?
It's a great question.
This, again, from their website, it shows the harmony with nature, which is a new design concept for Nicholas. It says that on their website.
Jack's stoked with that.
Round the back, the smiling assassin.
Long bunkers that follow the fairways and numerous mounds let you enjoy the course. Even par 3 or par 4 holes are longer than those in other courses, so that novices can't even dare to play here.
Okay.
That's on the website. Anyway, it's if you're wondering, if you're curious, the Lake course is so named because it has a Florida-style lake.
Thanks.
A Florida-style lake.
A Florida-style lake.
We're now dividing water bodies up by nationality. This is outstanding.
The Classic course is so named because it is Scotland-styled with greatly varied fairways. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. Just
on a side note, isn't it telling about how golf has sold itself globally? That these are the things that people or entities new to the game think are what's marketable. We've really sold the world a dud golf in so many ways. Same in China.
I went and played a golf course in Virginia last year that had sandbelt-styled bunkers.
Oh, yeah.
No.
What, they had sand in them?
Yeah. They were cut remotely near the green.
Yeah.
And with no rough around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this tournament has quite a long history. It's been going since 1981, mostly played in South Korea, but in recent years it's been tri-sanctioned with the Japan Golf Tour, the Asian Tour and the Korean Tour. I know you're curious about the sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely I am, yeah.
We should have a sponsor segment each week.
Shinhan Oh, I wanted to know who Horizon is for the Irish Open.
I didn't even look.
Well, that's on you.
I'll do it now.
The Shinhan, you'll be excited to know, is a financial group.
Oh, okay.
Donghae is Korean for East Sea, or as we would know it, it's the Sea of Japan.
Oh, okay.
So this is Shinhan is the title sponsor, and I guess this was formerly just the Donghae
Open.
Yeah,
Shinhan used to sponsor one of the players, I believe, one of the Koreans.
Okay. There you go. Defending champion is Kazuki Higa.
Yep.
As we sometimes get with these non-international series events on the Asian Tour, there's a lot of local invites, and being tri-sanctioned as well, there's a lot of players from the Japan Tour and the Korean Tour. It's a very crowded field, and I feel like these events they're super competitive, and it's very hard to. It confuses my models.
Well, it's a style of golf, isn't it? And there's a style of golfer in that part of the world.
That's right.
That we don't get much exposure to. So it
Very
makes it
hard
difficult.
for non-Koreans to win in Korea, even if it's a tri-sanctioned event. Yeah.
That's right. It's a real breeding ground for winners, and you get these players who, come away with, career 20 wins or something. These are the tournaments they win. There's a lot of Australians in the field, almost too many to name, but I'll name them. Scott Hand, Brendan Jones, Trav Smythe, Zach Murray, Todd Sinnott, Kevin Yuan, Brad Kennedy, Anthony Quayle, Hwan Jun Lee and Jun Suk Lee playing. I'm not going with any Australian. The name that sometimes you've just got to throw the model. I know I'm known for my deep analysis.
Is this the exception that proves the rule?
Sometimes you just got to throw the analysis out the window and go with your gut.
Go with your gut instinct.
And
Old school.
I'm choosing to go with Keita Nakajima, the Japanese sensation. He's already had 3 professional wins.
Yeah.
Did he lose to Kanai last week in Japan?
I think he might have, yeah.
Takumi Kanai won again. He's an extraordinary talent player, but those two really stand out from the young Japanese.
I remember watching, they played in the same group in an Australian Open at the Lakes one year on a Saturday, I think it was, and it was just phenomenal.
Stripe show.
Just, crazy good. Completely different golfers.
Yeah. Kanai is tiny.
Yeah.
For a professional.
Strong Australian influence on both of those via Gareth Jones.
Yeah, Gareth Jones,
Shout
of
out
course.
Gareth.
National team coach. Yeah.
Japanese national team, best dressed national team in golf. Outstanding uniforms.
Yeah, true.
Oh, so good. Just, I love it.
Handy players too, just quietly.
Yeah.
Japan's a very quiet force in international golf, particularly at the amateur level. Both
Absolutely.
men and women's.
Sleeping giant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Very
Rod,
much so.
your tip for this week?
Like everybody, I look at the field and go, I have no idea. You'd assume that one of the locals is probably going to get home, but probably not so much a tip. I've got to tip him. Brendan Jones is a really interesting case study. This year has been, this is his fifth start on the Asian Tour. 2 missed cuts, a win and a tied 4th. The win was at New Zealand Open. He'll be comfortable in this environment. I wouldn't be surprised to see him bob up and do quite well.
Bob up.
Out of nowhere. Bob up, yeah. Stick his nose in the frame. I wouldn't be surprised if he fires up this week, but I have no idea who's going to win.
So it's a tip within a tip that's
It's
not
a
a
tip
tip.
within a tip that's not really a tip. I take no responsibility for the projection I've made.
So you just tipped Brendan Jones?
Yeah, but I didn't really, even though I did.
Well, officially, because
I tipped somebody else but mentioned Brendan Jones. That's what we'll go with.
I've put it into the thing.
You put it in
tipped
as Brendan Jones,
so
as a tip, yeah.
Brendan Jones.
I'm just interested to see. I don't know what he's doing career-wise this year. It just seems an odd schedule that he's playing. He's in the UK for the last 2 international series events. Missed the cut in both.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
he's
because
back
he
in
was
playing
at
Korea.
one stage looking like chasing one of the DP World Tour cards here via the Order of Merit, and whether he was going to play more events because he had to play the 5 to be eligible.
He caddied for someone at the Open last year.
Yeah,
He sort
that's
of
right.
got
I mean, surely
misty,
he was
misty
toying-
eyes about, I wish I was playing this. He'd sort of lost his mojo a bit.
He was
but then
toying
got
with
it back.
retirement, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was cutting lawns in Canberra. at one
Landscape
stage.
gardening.
Yeah,
That's right. Landscape garden.
Moving it. Anyway.
Yeah. So I think he's in that phase of what do I do? I mean, he'd be late 40s now.
He would be.
Approaching that
46,
magical
47,
number
somewhere
that
around
they
there.
all get ready for. So.
But he can still play. I mean, he won that thing at Fonty Doonall. No, Jared Felton beat him in the playoff.
Jared beat him in the playoff after the
But
rain cancelled final round.
That was impressive play from a guy who hadn't touched a club for close to 3 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Extraordinary.
David Puig for me.
Yeah.
Sneaks into the field and kind of not much fanfare. Drives it a long way, puts it really good. Should hold up well here, despite the fact, like I said earlier, non-Koreans rarely win here. But
It's not Pew?
No, it's Puig.
Okay.
He's Spanish.
Okay.
Have you tipped him just so that you could make the point that you know that?
No,
It's an impressive
everybody
thing.
already knows I know more than Logue anyway.
I wouldn't have tipped him because I wouldn't have known how to pronounce it. This
There
is
you
how
go.
the tipping system works. This is my system. If I can't pronounce the name,
Also
I can't tip
always
them.
exciting to see Woon Jun Lee in a field. Woon Jun was the superstar of Sydney golf when I was a kid, so Logue's just dying over there.
Sorry. Try and stay with us.
Hit it so far and
bombed
butted
it.
it so good, Woon Jun.
Played at Carnarvon once. The 10th hole there was a par 5, and Steve Jacobson, who was the course super there, not anymore, but he was at the time, was a good player himself, played pennants for a long time, I think he's a good mate of BJ's. He had it at Golf Australia. He rang him one day in tears because his handicap had gone out to 2 for the first time since he was about 15, and he was into his 40s by then. Anyway, we were walking down the 10th fairway, and Jaco just sort of pointed at this spot that we were walking past on our way to our second shot and said, there's where Woon Jun hit it when he was here last week. It's like, what? It was unfeasible how far he hit the ball. And there were stories like that at every golf. At Concord, you go to Concord, there'd be a member there who'd point to a spot and say, this is where Woon Jun hit it. It was just incredible how long he was. Damn near won the 2007 Australian Open.
That's right.
Behind Craig Barry.
He bobs his head up from
Does bob up from time to time.
Plays all in Korea these days. So.
Yeah, I
think he might live there.
Lives there? I think he's moved there,
Also worth quick mention this week is the 2 US mid-amateurs. The men's and women's are both on this week. Both start Saturday. The women's in Pennsylvania. But the men's are playing at Sleepy Hollow as the main course and Fenway Golf Club as the secondary. So two absolute gems. And there's 2 Aussies in the field there, and Harry Bolton and past champion Lucas Michel, who I spoke to on the weekend, and is over there playing golf in the lead up to and hasn't been sitting on a dozer as he had been last year.
He's following the Clates model, isn't he? Stay amateur and you get to play all of the best golf courses. Turn pro and it's just a stream of rubbish.
I think he told me he gets a 10-year exemption through to the US mid-amateur as a winner, so I think he'll be over there playing those sort of things for a long time.
Good on him.
Living his best life.
One of the nicest people in world golf.
Absolutely.
Weren't you leading in a match against him that he didn't know he was playing at one point?
Yeah, he was going down in one of Logue's.
Didn't you have him 2 or 3 down through 7 holes?
That's right.
Without him even knowing he was playing?
That will do us for episode 30 of Playing from the Tips. Rod, you've been as reliable as an old favourite putter as always.
Coming from you, that is no rap.
Exactly.
Is there
Why do you
such a
think I
thing?
said it? Yes. Logue, you've coupled up brilliantly with Rod this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
You've bobbed up.
You've bobbed up, yes.
Bucked my head.
Bucked your head, yeah. Keep an eye on the Golf Australia website, golfaustralia.com.au this week to stay up to date with all the action from these tournaments and more. And take a look at Golf Australia magazine on YouTube for the game improvement series with the PGA of Australia professionals from around the country. That will certainly help your game. We will be back next week. Thank you for listening to Playing from the Tips.